Handle the truth.
Welcome to the second hour of Authentic News right here on RBN Live this 22nd of April 2025, where I take your calls. We have several lined up. JP in Chicago, join the conversation. JP.
Well, hello, Jim. I hope you had a blessed Easter weekend.
Yeah, we had a good one. Good one.
Yeah, it's very restful. I did a fast and, very sober. I had some really good visions, actually. I think I foresaw the Pope's death, actually. I had a weird vision that night of Saturday after my 48 hours not, eating. And it was weird. It was men and women in red masks. And if you look at remember the old story, the Mask of the Red Death? It's about plague and disease. And unfortunately, Pope Francis, he pushed this mark of the beast mRNA AIDS vaccine on everybody, and he even forced it on his nuns. Remember, there's a nunnery, a monastery that resisted him, and he shut them down and said, if you're not going to take the vax, you're going to shut you down, take your funding away. And they were kicked out in the street, the poor nuns. And, he got real sick at the end. I think they might have sacrificed him because he was a Jesuit, part of that secret society world. The World Economic Forum with Carl Schwab. Yeah. Schwab stepped down too. So those are good things. I mean, I hate to say it. If you look at the Catholic Church and what he did to it, him dying was probably a good thing for the Catholic Church. What do you say about that?
Yeah, keep going.
I did the deep dive. I mean, I call him a false prophet on John B. Wells' show, but he was into Chrislam. He was into Christian charity, letting all these foreign invaders, millions of them come around our country. He was blackmailing all the gay priests because he was a bouncer in a titty bar back in Argentina. Most people don't know that, but I got that from a CIA connection. He was actually a bouncer in a titty bar. He's a communist. He was just basically into blackmailing. And what they would do with these gay priests that molested children, they cover up the crime, they pay off the family, and they ship them off around the world to Australia or Africa or somewhere else where they went. But they'd still be pedophiles preaching, just amongst a different flock. Yeah. So this guy was bad. He was dark. He was a Jesuit. He was in all that secret society crap. And he died from his own poison medicine that he poisoned people with and talked the flock into taking. And I watched all my dad's friends die from that. They were good Catholics, and they took their shots, and they all died soon after, unfortunately. They got the bad batch,
That's really disturbing, JP. I really don't like any of that. He was also for open borders, as I recall.
Yeah. So that's good, bad, and ugly. I believe in what Gabriel said the other day. I really got to give him some props. I'm not a Mason or anything, but I did study a lot of Gnostic Greek, early Christians. And the Nag Hammadi tests, these were just found recently. Talks about what the Christians were really like. There's a book of Mary Magdalene. There's a book of Judas. There's just the Dead Sea Scrolls that talk about, Jesus was like in this Qumran sect, which is like a mystic cult of light, and they were detached from, the physical. They were into spirituality and breaking away from the inertia of earth, the physical and meditating all the time. And it's important, to know the real history of the Christians and what happened with the church and what this Pope did was really perverted, especially with abortion and gay marriage and all that stuff. He really twisted the Catholic Church. So I'm glad to see him gone, to be honest with you. And he's probably burning next to Lucifer, if you believe in justice and karma. You know, that's just my belief structure anyways. But the other thing you talked about with, I did a Wu-Wei report, I sent you an email about it, about the Khazarian mob and Ukraine, and they're not going to give it up. I mean, that Zelensky, it appears to me, if you look at history and, like, you know, The Art of War, Sun Tzu, remember his quote? What was that quote? Never interrupt an enemy when he makes a mistake. Mistake. And Zelensky's the perfect clown. He's a Khazarian cokehead clown. And, you know, he's just making mistakes. And there's, according to Trump now, he's giving out the real numbers, a couple thousand dying every week. I'm gauging around 6,000 or 7,000 Ukrainians dying every month. And it's, whether you, and I think the casualty rates, everything's twisted because they lie so much about everything. So I don't know if they can have peace in that, you know, especially when you got the people backing them up, like BlackRock and Larry Fink investing over there, and all the neocons like Newman and Blinken.
They're running out of manpower. They don't have people to draft. I mean, Russians have taken out over 1 million Ukrainian troops, most of whom, it turns out, are Christian. And some think, in a way, it was to make way for a Jewish exodus from Israel to Ukraine. And remember how often Zelensky talked about Ukraine as the new Israel. So I think this has been part of the agenda. But the Russians are unrelenting. They're taking them out. They're gaining more ground. There's some talk that there may be a major op to take Kiev and more. You know, I don't think it's going to last very much longer. And, of course, if Trump pulls out U.S. support, it's all over for Ukraine.
You study military tactics, and this is basic tactics 101. When you got air superiority, you got 10-1 artillery, you're going to be dead. And then they're bunkered in there in Donetsk and Lugansk, and they're bunkered in, and they got the air superiority, and they got 10-1 artillery, and then they got the drones, the killer drones. I did a video on the killer drones. They're taking out what they're doing is they're taking out their vehicles, and then they're hunting them down man by man. And once they get their GPS location, they already the crap out of them. They get them with Stalin's rockets, which are these Katyusha rockets, which is same like Artie. It just obliterates people with flame. These are dying by the thousands a week, 1,000 a week, a couple thousand a week. They're dying, and Trump admitted to that. So something's got to stop.
Yeah,
something's got to get.
Most deaths in combat are not from the infantry or the tanks. It's from the artillery. That accounts for the vast majority of deaths in combat, the howitzers and the mortars and the like. And
I still remember those equations, Jim. I know how to zoom in on a target. I know the 9.8 meters per second squared.
Very good.
But good. One last thing. Grandpa Coonan wasn't. I have those logs from his ship and the stuff from Canada. If they look stuff up on the internet, my actual cousin has the actual medal in London. And now, if he won in a poker match, God bless him. But he was actually on the Kent, and I got the ship's logs and everything, and I have the actual medal. So people calling me up and questioning my grandfather's stolen valor. Kiss my Irish arse.
Thank you, JB. Nice,
right,
nice
bye-bye.
call, my friend. Very
Bye-bye.
nice. Don in Arizona, join the conversation. Don.
Jim, yeah. Hello, Jim. You're talking about Chabad Lubavitch, right?
Yeah.
Now, Trump's son-in-law, Jared, the Kushners, I believe they belong to that sect. I mean, you can never tell for sure. It's not like they wear a baseball uniform that says Chabad Lubavitch on the back of it, right? But
Right.
It's pretty much acknowledged that Jared Kushner is part of that. Charles Kushner, his dad, Jared Kushner's dad, Trump pardoned him. You know, he was a convicted felon, and Trump pardoned the guy.
Yes.
One of his crimes was he blackmailed his own brother-in-law by setting him up with a whore and filming it. Right, real sweet guy, right? And
God.
yeah,
and Trump, he graduated from the Jeffrey Epstein School of Tech and Diplomacy.
That seems to be a pretty popular activity for some of these people there. And
yes.
Trump said he was going to give Charles Kushner the job of ambassador to France, but I think maybe he realized that would be going too far. But he said he was going to do that. Now, there's another guy that he commuted the sentence, Eli Weinstein. Have you ever heard the case of Eli Weinstein?
Tell us, remind us.
He is called the Fraud King of New Jersey, that's really saying something. The Fraud King of New Jersey, and he just swindled all kinds of people in Ponzi schemes and various. He sold real estate that didn't exist and so forth. So he was in prison, 2 different felonies, and Trump commuted a sentence. Well, he got out, and as soon as he got out, he started committing more fraud and got indicted. And it's hard to find. I think he's back in prison now, but it's hard to find out what happened to this other trial. So Trump got him out of prison. No, he wasn't going to clean up at that point. He kept going. And so Chabad, definitely your friend Netanyahu there is he's involved with that, and that's why he was friends with the Kushners, and he bragged about sleeping in Jared Kushner. So Trump is this is the kind of guys that he gets out of prison. He didn't get Assange out of prison. Oh, hell no. He has to get these slime balls, total slime balls out of prison. And a lot of these Jews, whether it's Chabad or something else, they really believe that the law does not apply to them, and they should never go to prison. I mean, I think that's part. I'm not an expert on Judaism, which it's hard to be. It's hard to acquire expertise on Judaism. It's all kind of kept somewhere where you can't see it. But I believe that they just don't think they should go to prison unless they hurt somebody physically.
Don, even the Israeli Supreme Court ruled that the IDF didn't have to allow aid into Gaza, meaning they could let the Palestinians starve, and cited biblical sources, if you can believe. I mean, this is crime against humanity, violation of international law, violation of the Geneva Conventions, violation of the UN Charter. But the Israeli Supreme Court ruled it was God's will that the IDF allow the Palestinians to starve.
God's will.
This is grotesque, Don. Grotesque.
By the way, there's a pretty good website pertaining to Israel a lot, the crimes of Israel. It's called Information Liberation. And I'm looking at this one thing that just recently happened. Some Russian reporter asked the Israeli spokeswoman a very rare tough question, because they never take any. Nobody ever asks them any tough questions. But this guy asked this lady, if Iran abandons its nuclear program, will Israel do the same? And she went crazy. She didn't answer. Did you hear what I said?
Yeah, I love it. Very nice.
She went crazy. She went crazy and started screaming. And one thing she said was, her answer was, Israel's not posing a threat to anyone. How about that? You talk over the top line all the time. That's what gets me about these people. Over the top line.
How many nations is Israel invading now? They're invading Syria, Lebanon. They're slaughtering the people in Gaza. They're behind, of course, the attacks on the Houthis. They want to slaughter Iran. So who's the threat? Iran hasn't attacked any other nation since 1775. Give us a break.
She went crazy. This guy asked her what really is a reasonable question. I mean, will Israel give up their nuclear program? And she said Israel is not posing a threat to anyone and doesn't have any territorial ambitions in any other country.
Oh my God.
Come on now.
That's the whole idea of the greater Israel includes a big chunk of Egypt, virtually all of Saudi Arabia, Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, even parts of Iraq. They don't have any territorial ambition. What horse shit.
I'd like to touch on one other subject briefly there.
Sure.
As far as slamming Trump, I mean, some people call in and say you shouldn't slam Trump. Well, I agree. Trump is not running for anything right now. He's not. You're not going to hurt him by saying criticizing him. Now, when he's running for office, I think that's bad when people come in, and that happened. Remember during the election when the election was going on, the election season, people would come in and slam Trump, and they would never slam Biden. They never slam Kamala. It was always just the one, and they would not say anything good. Why they would not even say I would prefer Kamala to Trump. They just slam Trump, and some of them are paid trolls, right? When they do that. But now you're in the position now. You back Trump. You actually backed him and tried to, I mean, in your limited way. I don't know how many people listen to your show, but you tried to let it be known that Trump was better than Kamala.
Voted for him 3 times, Don. I think I'm entitled to criticize if I think I've been sold a bill of goods, if I think he campaigned on one set of positions and now he's acting on another. I think that's totally legit.
Yeah, he's in there now. Now's the time that you can legitimately hold his feet to the fire a little bit, and maybe we'll pay attention a little bit. I'll let you go there, Jim. Thanks.
Yeah, I'm glad you called. Good call. Peter in L.A., welcome back, Peter. It's been a while. Join us.
Well, can you hear me, Jim? I'm on a headset.
Yeah, very clearly.
I am so disgusted with Trump, what he's doing with freedom of speech, with the universities, with deporting people, with ignoring the Supreme Court, which, of course, we've all, you and I anyways, have sworn to protect the Constitution, and he's going beyond that. There was the Pete Hegseth thing is the main topic I wanted to talk about, and how Hegseth has thrown his couple of his longtime collaborators and people that he worked with, even at Fox News. I think one of those names is Caldwell or something. The other one's a Jewish name, but these guys were against, were not hawks against Iran, and Hegseth finds himself in danger of being replaced, and now he's, in order to curry favor with the Jewish masters who run everything, he is, turning his back on people who've been with him and with him for years, and throwing them under the bus without any charges. The Caldwell and the other guy have not been polygraphed. Their phones have not been confiscated, and they haven't looked at the phone, their cell phones or any of that stuff. So these are to curry favor with the people when we're coming right up on a question of war and peace. Hegseth, to save his own hide, is getting rid of all voices in the administration, in the Defense Department that might call for peace. Also, there was a person announced, and I forgive me for not remembering the name, just Monday, I believe it was, to the director of policy for the National Security Council, an Israeli woman, a dual national, served in the Israeli army, of course, like Peter, so many of.
That was my opening story. Former Israeli official running Israel who ran White House policy. She was assigned to that position by the National Security Advisor Waltz, who's obviously, I think he's Mossad, for crying out loud. It's insane.
They all are. And I want to make the point. You say that you think that Trump is a Jew. I absolutely. Doesn't matter if he is or not. I agree with you on that. But he's...
Stand by. Stand by.
Eleanor Rigby picks up the rice in the church where a wedding has been. Lives in a dream, waits at the window, wearing the face that she keeps in a...
I have a research colleague, Peter, who's been telling me, a guy with deep intel background and connections, for about a year and a half, that both Putin and Trump were Chabad. And I've wanted to resist it. I found it just so difficult to believe, but I think now he's right. And I don't think you're contradicting what he's telling me.
Well, I don't know about Putin. I have hope for Putin. I have no hope for Trump. And the same ridiculous, really malfeasance that he did in his first term in 2016, where he pointed, everybody who traitorred him and submarined him and did everything, he did that and replaced them with other people who did the same thing. And after all that, he did exactly the same thing this time. Only this time he did it for money. And as Douglas McGregor said, if you appoint enough clowns, you got a circus. You got a clown show. It's nothing but clowns in this show, and more being added all the time with this new director of policy for the National Security Council. If Hegseth doesn't manage to suck his way out of this pickle that he got himself into with his own horrible immaturity and bad judgment with all these signal conferences, then his most likely replacement they're talking about is Tom Cotton, who's even worse and owned by the Israeli lobby. Yes.
Totally zealot.
Owned.
Yeah.
A total zealot.
Not a rational agent to be in a position like that. Terrible.
Yeah. So if Trump isn't a Jew, what's the difference, right? His complete administration.
We're
run by them.
He's acting in every way as though we were one. I think that's telling.
Yeah, I mean,
think
what else is there?
The message, Peter. I think we're getting the message.
Yeah, I mean, and it comes, that and even in his domestic policy, he's saying that our rights, yours, mine, everybody listening, if you criticize Israel, oh my God, you can't criticize the people who walk between the raindrops, the chosen, representatives of God who own and him lock, stock, and barrel, and he's threatening to deport us, right?
Yes.
He's shutting down our universities. He's doing all this stuff. The guy's a piece of crap. I don't care who talks about it, and I voted for him 3 times. But hey, listen, the proof is in the pudding, and this is what he does, not what he says. What he does is, hey, listen, he's a Jew. He may as well be.
Peter, I'm sorry to say, you got it right. I mean, we're in a desperate plight, and I'm sorry that some who've been such strong supporters of Trump are unhappy to hear me castigate him for violating freedom of speech. But in my opinion, there's nothing more basic to being an American than the right to express your opinion free from the risk of punishment, harassment. My God, they're going after Harvard for over $2 billion. They're talking about taking away its tax-exempt status because it's allowed students to protest peacefully against genocide. Peter, what have we become?
Columbia, Penn, MIT, Michigan. He's going after all of them. UCLA. Listen, we're second-class citizens. He's announcing it to us, right?
Yeah.
We can't criticize them. If we can't even assemble, we'll be doxxed. He'll get his Jewish doxing organizations like Canary Mission or whatever to make sure that we lose our jobs and can't get rehired anywhere. And he doesn't do anything about that either.
Yes.
Right? So listen, let these idiots. Don was right. The guy's in there. We gave him his chance. I didn't criticize him heavily. I did for before he was elected. I voted for him. But now, hey, listen, this guy deserves it all. And the people who don't criticize him for freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, war and peace. By the way, $8 trillion of wealth have disappeared with his ridiculous tariffs. You think the Federal Reserve didn't buy all those stocks when they were down at 25 cents on the dollar or whatever?
Yeah.
Right? You think his bankers that bankroll him went in on that too? Listen, this
Peter,
guy is poison.
I've reached a point where I'm willing to give Vance a chance. This guy has violated his oath of office. He's committed impeachable offense. Hell with that. I don't like it.
He has. That's right. And I've been for impeaching every president since Eisenhower, frankly. But every single president has done this. But this is really bad. Nobody's jailing and deporting people for freedom of speech except old Donald.
Final thought, Peter. Final thought.
The people who don't pay attention to our Constitution and our Bill of Rights are morons. The callers that won't accept criticism of Trump for that, they're morons. They're idiots. What can I tell you? They're just idiots.
Okay, Peter. Thanks.
There you go.
You got to tell us what you really think.
Well, that's it.
Thanks, Peter.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Francis, join the conversation.
CEO, young man. I'm not sure if I want to, you know? I mean, after hearing yesterday's show, it's like, oh, my stars. I mean, every time I hear a bunch of things going off verbally, regarding this person, I'm thinking, you know what? I really feel for the young folks and the families that end up listening to this stuff or turning it off. There's enough crap going on in the world that they should not have to hear this carrying on, occurring on the radio between grown adults. Seriously, I'm really ashamed. I really am. It's absolutely revolting to me. With that being said, to start off with, I didn't realize that when you have a boyfriend that hasn't figured out how to express himself in a very, congenial fashion, they got to retort to some kind of, whatever have you as a result. So I'll leave that alone and let people figure out what I'm talking about. I have to admit that if Donald actually helps Iran instead of trying to annihilate Iran at the behest of Butcher Benny in Israel, then he'll actually show his true colors of being someone who's out for peace and not for greed. So if he actually figures that out, I'll be actually be in shock and impressed that he might actually get me, to actually believe in him as being earning the title of Prez. The honor, the respect, and so forth. And that's all I have to say about it, because right now he doesn't earn, he doesn't deserve, and he does not respect that position, let alone Judas Vance, for that matter, especially since he ended up visiting the Pope the day before. He ends up he gives up the ghost, as it were, the next day or whatever. Apparently the Pope had words with him and so forth. And I was like, oh, my gosh, this is unbelievable. It would seem that the Pope had a change of heart, despite what he may or may not have done early in his earlier years, that he'd come to learn his lesson, to balance out his spirit and so forth, before he crossed over. Because I'm seeing two different type of people, spiritually speaking, for that matter. And so, I'm watching, observing what's going on, and I think that the governments of Israel, Zionist governments, as well as the Zionist government here in the U.S., need to put their hands up and step away from Iran and leave them alone, as well as the people in Gaza, the Palestinians in Israel, and so forth. They need to put their hands up and step away. Because, for one thing, I'm being shown that this dude, Donald, is obviously a Zionist, but he's also a satanic character as well, because what Christian does this kind of thing, supposedly in the name of Jesus, Isa, God, whatever have you? No, I don't think so. That's an insult. But aside from that scenario, we have a lot of issues still here in the States that need to be taken care of. And speaking of which, I heard a commentary about regarding Kilmore Garcia in El Salvador, not to mention other 188 people that were renditioned there without due process and so forth. To start with, I had to do research on that dude. And yes, they have probably had a domestic dispute back in 2021 or whatever have you, and his wife resorted to just having a restraining order on him. However, the flip side is that, one, they had to go through marriage counseling. No big deal. But, you know something? Just because someone wears a baseball hat and a hoodie does not mean they're a gang member, especially when it has to do with school colors and so forth. So whenever a bunch of guys get together, they wear the same outfit or whatever, similar, color-wise, that does not, I guess they're going to start picking them up and arresting them and taking them to El Salvador to CCOT as a result, and start arresting just everyday people off the street. I mean, that's just totally absurd. But, you know.
Final thought, Francis? Final thought for today? This way.
Kristi Noem, obviously the dog killer, needs to get her act together as far as bringing these people back to begin with. Yes, there are people that are here illegally that came in. I'll grant you that. But they stand out. These people that are living their own lives here in the U.S., they don't stand out, for crying out loud. And they've done nothing but living for their own family and helping to try to live the American dream, for crying out loud. So enough of this garbage and enough of the hate. Anyway, you have a great week.
Thanks, Francis. Thank you. Gabriel in Arkansas, join the conversation. Gabriel.
Good afternoon. In my opinion, Professor, the existence of God can be proven using mathematics. When you consider the human being and the world around us, including outer space, it's all very well designed when you look closely at it. The probability that the human being and everything around us being the result of a random explosion or random events is 0%, mathematically speaking. But the probability of the human being and everything around him being designed by an intelligence is a 100% probability, mathematically speaking. Professor, please respond.
Oh, it's a fallacious argument, Gabriel. I mean, talking about random is misleading. It's not random, it's directed. The laws of nature regulate processes, including biological. There are 8 causal mechanisms of evolution, including to create genetic diversity, genetic mutation, sexual reproduction, genetic drift, and artificial, genetic engineering. Then in terms of selection, you got natural selection, sexual selection, group selection, and artificial selection. And it's explicable and, in fact, inevitable under certain circumstances that you'd have the emergence of the various species, which means that the God hypothesis is unnecessary because you can explain what we have to explain without it. Go ahead.
Well, my final thought, so you can get to the rest of the callers. I voted for Jill Stein this past election. I did vote for
right.
Yeah, I did. I voted for Trump 2 other times, but after the second time he said that my vote didn't count, I said, no way am I ever going to vote for him again. When he's going to tell me my vote didn't count while he was president, no way was I ever going to vote for him a third time after that. No way. So under his watch, he said that the election was stolen. No way was I ever going to vote for him again. But my prediction, unfortunately, Professor, because the first presidency we got locked down, totally illegal and unconstitutional. And I predict that this presidency, it's going to be something worse. And what I think we're seeing, Professor, and you're saying it yourself, I listen to all of your news. I love your news. I'm your biggest fan. And what he's bringing us into is going to be a major war.
Yeah, I sure hope you're wrong. Gabriel. But a lot of us are worried that that's going to turn out to be exactly right. A final thought?
Oh, have a great evening.
Thanks, Gabriel. Like your calls. Joe in Florida, join the conversation. Joe, welcome back.
Hey, Jim. Happy Easter. Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
I do have to, I'm not going to dwell on this, but I do have to say I was offended by JP. I don't know. If I'm a theology professor, I'm giving F's to everybody that calls into this show on theology, okay? JP, what I was offended about, JP's saying, oh, the Pope is burning in hell. Well, hey, listen, wait a minute, JP. That's offensive to me, okay? The Holy Father died yesterday. There's a part of mourning. You will find no stronger critic of Bergoglio, Francis, than I was. But there's a certain decency, okay? So just, I'm going to not dwell on that, but that's a little beyond the limit, just to him.
Got it.
But the other part I want to say this is, so there is a war criminal that is currently in our country. I want to let my friend, my great friend, Tom, from down just a little bit more south of me in Miami, is a war criminal on our territory, and somehow he got into the country and he's being tolerated. The person's name, National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir. Yes.
Oh, really?
Israeli, Yes.
Yeah.
He's in Miami.
There's an ICC warrant out for him, just as there is for Bibi Netanyahu. Nice point.
I get this immunity if you're a Jew in Miami or a Jew in New York, right, or a Jew in Washington. You get immunity. So this bloodthirsty war criminal, Jewish criminal, Itamar Ben-Gvir, who, by the way, he's on the record. We know his comments. You remember it was last year, there's this thing that happens in Israel, which they try to cover up. Jews spitting on Christians, especially in the Holy Land area, especially in Jerusalem. Yeah. Okay. And Ben-Gvir goes out of his way, Itamar Ben-Gvir, goes out of his way to endorse it. He's on the record. Oh, he thinks that's a great policy. Yeah. Israelis should keep spitting on Christians, right? Anyway, this bloodthirsty Jew war criminal is in Miami now. Somehow he comes into the country. I don't know. How does he get a visa? That's what I want to know. I'm a supporter of President Trump, even still, right? And actually, I'd like to make a suggestion to President Trump. I really applaud his use of the Alien Enemies Act. Some of these gangsters from Venezuela, they should be deported, and I could care less where they show up. Send them out, right? As they say in Spanish, fuera, out. But how about this guy, Itamar Ben-Gvir, personally responsible for the deaths of tens of thousands of innocent Palestinians, and he's gleefully cheered on by his supporters in Miami. I understand he's going to Yale tomorrow night, and there's some kind of fundraiser, some Jewish Shabtai, some Jewish organization.
Wow.
He's going to, he's going to be in New York, and then he's going to go to Washington.
Bad.
So how does this happen? This is a person who should be arrested.
The Supreme Court had an emergency meeting, like in the dead of night, and then responding to an ACLU petition to nullify Trump's use of the Enemy Alien Act. They did it, Joe. It's in my stories tomorrow. I guess it might as well have been in today. But I'm shocked because they didn't go through any of the due process that's appropriate to making a major decision like that. Just outrageous.
Exactly. And did you notice? I saw that story. I'm following that. Justice Alito was not allowed to include his dissent from that decision. There's some very shady things going on in the Supreme Court. This John Roberts and Tony Barrett, these people are phonies, okay? Amy Phony Barrett. First of all, the president has the absolute authority to deport anybody he wants. Look at the Constitution, right? And that's not, this is let's say it's a new interpretation that hasn't been enforced with the Alien Enemies Act. I'm 100% in favor of him. But, yeah, they did that. But here's my thing. If ever there was an enemy of the United States, isn't Itamar Ben-Gvir, the bloodthirsty Jewish war criminal? Currently, his hands are literally dripping with blood with tens of thousands of Palestinian children. Why isn't that person being arrested?
And what does this say about the rule of law, that the United States is not willing to conform to international law if it suits its purpose? It can just ignore it. That suggests every citizen of the U.S. can simply ignore the laws it doesn't like. It's just outrageous, Joe.
Exactly. Well, that's the United States of America, right? But I'm going to end on a positive note. One other story, okay? And this has to do with, so now, again, I was a critic of Pope Francis, but we have respect for the Pope. The good news is I think there's a very good opportunity for a very good Pope coming now. So I don't see it. It's sort of inter-Catholic, but there's the leading name right now. One of the leading names, his name is Pier Battista Pizzaballa, which is kind of spelled funny. The last name is like pizza and then B-A-L-L-A, Pizzaballa, but Pizzaballa. First name is Pier Battista. Pier Battista Pizzaballa is the Latin patriarch for Jerusalem. Now, he's only 60 years old. And if you're following a little bit of this pape sort of race, who's going to be the new pope, he made a very big move last year, offering himself in exchange for hostages, making the plight of the Gazans. He's from Jerusalem, and he was prohibited by the Jews last year from saying Mass there's one Catholic church in Gaza called Holy Family Catholic Church, and 2 women were actually murdered by the terrorist Jewish regime there. And the Latin Patriarch, Pizzaballa, wanted to go to that church, and he was prevented by Ben-Gvir and the Nazi Netanyahu and his gang of thugs. Thanks. But then the Holy Father Francis complained, and then he was allowed to come, and he said a Mass at the end of last year. Oh. Anyway, he's one of the leading candidates to be the new pope. So if he's the pope, that's a great story.
Sounds like a man of great courage and integrity who's been there and put his life at risk. Joe, thank you. Great call.
Indeed.
Great call.
God bless.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great one. Happy Easter.
Thank you, Joe. James in Vancouver joined the conversation. James.
Gee, just after Joe in Florida, the Pope works or is appointed by or voted by the Curia. It's the Curia that run the church, not the Pope. And I think that Pope Francis got his pink slip handed to him Monday morning, and your services are no longer necessary. And all the rest.
Are you hinting his death may not have been entirely natural?
Absolutely, because I looked at his picture from the day before when he was with Vance, and I have some medical background. That does not look like a dying man to me.
Yeah,
dying people do not look like that. They don't have exactly presence of mind. So, what did that enemy of the state injection behind the ear?
Yes.
I disagree with it, but I understand the argument, like Gene Hackman would say. Now, about this war and these wars, I remember one of the first times I talked to you on RBN 2023. I think that's when you came over. Months before the October 7th deception, Well, I said that Donald Trump would be the one to take us to war because they did a good cop, bad cop. His first presidency, he was a good cop. Second presidency, it was taken away from him, and we all felt bad for him and ourselves. And you see, this is how they work us, this deep state, NSA, that kind of thing. They work us so that finally when Donald Trump would be elected in 2024, then we would all rejoice with Hosanna and Hallelujah, which is what we did. And now the 100 days of, the first 100 days of the Love Fest are over, and now it's down to business. Back to you for your comments.
Yeah, it's like stepping in a bear trap. Stepping in a bear trap, James. Give us a final thought, my friend. Give us a final thought.
All right. Based on my studies of biophysics, you're quite correct, is that if you look at the periodic table, all the elements of the periodic table can be divided into two types, mutually exclusive. One is fermions, the other is bosons. If you understand the dynamics of these two different types of particles, you will see that that is the reason for life, and that is why things are not random in the universe, because of these basic quantum mechanical forces.
Yeah.
And I'll get back to you on that later.
Thank you. All right, it's all governed by laws that can't be violated and cannot be changed.
Yeah. When they teach you chemistry, they don't tell you about the bosons and fermions. Okay, talk to you later.
No. That's very good, Jay. It's excellent. Dan in Washington. Dan, we missed you the other day. Go ahead.
Hey there.
Yep.
Hello. I'm sorry about that. The concept of the kosher sandwich or steak left right paradigm. I got family that watches MSNBC like you, unfortunately. And if you notice Rachel Maddow and these people, they're not talking about, when they're talking about the constitutional violations, they're always focusing on this guy in Guatemala. They're rarely talking about these professors that are like Palestinian rights activists and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Doing that, and I think that because most Americans really don't care if it's illegal or whatever is deported, so that to get the right-wing conservatives on the side of Trump just violating the Constitution, I think, because they're not making the issue about freedom of speech. They're making it about, securing the border and stuff like that. Have you noticed that?
I think that's an astute observation.
All right,
Dan,
that's all I got. Yeah, if you watch MSNBC, you can just tell MSNBC is totally controlled. So, thanks.
Oh, my wife's addicted. I see more of it than I would like. Thank you, Dan. Good one. Bubba, go right ahead. Lay it on, Bubba.
Hey, this is Boy Scout Red, and we're here because we have to be. Everything we do is by the law. Everything we do. So when you call in a program and say, "What's wrong with you, you jerks? Don't you like the laws of America?" That's why we're doing this. And they're getting the message. Some senators alerted people in Kentucky. This is in front of the desk of Mr. Potato Head at the White House. Now, he's a jerk, but we got him to at least see it, and then the generals will get rid of him. We got that rust bucket at Cape Canaveral ready to put him and Muskie on it and launch him to Mars. Goodbye, Mr. Jerk, because he's not going to fix America. He's the problem. And so are all these other jerks that think we could just look the other way. And it's the Woodstock Freak Show is what it is. Maybe if they chant, they won't get wet. Remember that? It was the thing that they talked about in that idiot movie, Woodstock. Well, that's what I'm hearing. If we all chant together, it'll go away. No, it won't. It goes away by military force. Didn't you get that? And the people who say they're a militia group, they're not. They're a bunch of just jerks who build up their supplies of surplus. That's what they do. And what they going to use it for? Probably to get themselves dead. Because they're not using it now, are they? No. And neither is anybody using their heads. So why don't you use your heads? Call in these broadcasts. Say, why do we let those 3 people on welfare, Boy Scout Rep, just sit there when they're supposed to do their job and clear the continent? I never understood why these mud races wanted to be near Whitey anyway. Because, well, we're a white race. They're Caucasians. They're the stupidest people on earth. And I thought in the American Mercury in the middle of the 70s, someone wrote to that. It was one of those, it kind of sounded like an RBN broadcast, just giving their opinions, National Socialism, crap. You never saw it, the American Mercury, a magazine?
Oh, yeah.
And they wrote into the...
It was an important publication in its day, yes.
Oh, well, okay, but I just saw a note, and they were putting all this national white peoples and all this. And so someone wrote to the editor and said, we hate your magazine because you believe the Caucasian people race are superior. And the editor wrote, so what the heck are you talking about? We believe Caucasians are the stupidest people on earth for what let them happen to them. They let it happen to them. And when you hear those opinions, you're going, what are they talking about? Don't you want to get rid of the problem? That's what we'll do. Let's go right. Call all the broadcasters you know on this network everywhere. Tell them, make a swear job. Thanks a lot, Mr. Fester.
You got it. Everyone, spend as much time as you can with your friends and people you love. Left. BB has his way. We might all be incinerated tomorrow. Meanwhile, use that time wisely. Support RBN, and we'll talk again tomorrow. See you then. Yes,